A hard-working black mechanic known for his honesty and skill found his life turned upside down when a vindictive cop tried to frame him for a crime he didn't commit. The officer, arrogant and assured, planted evidence and falsified his report, believing his word was law. He completely forgot about the impartial eye of his own patrol car's dashcam, silently recording his every deceitful action, a digital witness that would ultimately expose his lies and clear an innocent man. Viewers, welcome. Today's story is a chilling reminder of how easily justice can be perverted by those sworn to uphold it, and the unexpected ways truth can fight its way to the surface. It's about an ordinary man targeted by malice, and the technological twist that turned the tables. If stories of resilience, vindication, and the power of irrefutable evidence resonate with you, please subscribe and join our community. Your support helps us share these vital narratives. Thank you for being here. Marcus Mac Johnson was a pillar of quiet integrity in the bustling, often gritty industrial neighborhood of Ironwood. At 42, he was the owner and sole operator of Mac's Auto and Trust, a small, impeccably organized two-bay garage that had earned a loyal following through years of honest work, fair prices, and Mac's almost uncanny ability to diagnose and fix even the most stubborn automotive ailments. Mac wasn't just a mechanic. He was a craftsman, a problem solver, a man who took profound satisfaction in restoring order to chaos, whether it was a sputtering engine or a misaligned chassis. He was a black man in a racially mixed but often economically stressed community, and his garage was more than just a business. It was a neighborhood fixture, a place where people knew they'd get a straight answer and a reliable repair without being taken for a ride. He'd built his reputation slowly, meticulously, one satisfied customer at a time, his calloused hands a testament to years of dedicated labor. Mac's hidden power wasn't wealth or influence in high places. It was his unshakable honesty, his deep well of patience, the respect he had earned from his community, and, unbeknownst to him until it was almost too late, the unblinking, impartial lens of a police cruiser's dashboard camera. He was a man who believed in doing right by people, in the simple karma of good deeds leading to good outcomes. He trusted, perhaps naively, that the system, by and large, was designed to protect the innocent and punish the guilty. This bedrock belief was about to be severely, almost fatally, tested by an officer who represented the system's darkest, most corrupt impulses. Officer Rick Snyder was a blight on the Ironwood precinct, a 10-year veteran known more for his surly demeanor, his quick temper, and his talent for escalating minor situations than for any actual police work. Snyder harbored a deep-seated resentment towards anyone he perceived as challenging his authority, however subtly, and he had a particular dislike for successful black business owners in his district, like Mac. He saw their quiet competence and community standing as an affront to his own mediocre career and inflated sense of self-importance. Mac had had a few minor, unpleasant interactions with Snyder over the years. A condescending remark about the type of cars Mac worked on, an unwarranted safety inspection of his garage that yielded no violations but plenty of thinly veiled intimidation. Snyder had been looking for an opportunity to put Mac in his place, to assert his dominance over a man whose quiet dignity he found inexplicably galling. The opportunity Snyder had been craving arrived on a sweltering August afternoon. Mac had just finished a complex engine rebuild on a classic muscle car for a new out-of-town customer, Mr. Davies, who was thrilled with the result and had paid in cash, a not uncommon occurrence for larger jobs, especially with customers who preferred to avoid credit card fees or who dealt primarily in cash for their hobbies. Mac had carefully counted the substantial sum, provided a detailed receipt, and secured the money in his office safe, intending to deposit it at the bank Later that day, Mr. Davies had just driven off, his newly revived engine rumbling with a satisfying roar. Moments later, Officer Snyder's patrol car, which had been parked inconspicuously down the street, observing Mac's garage, pulled up abruptly, blocking the entrance to Mac's service bays. Snyder emerged, his face set in a look of grim, almost theatrical determination. He wasn't responding to a call. He was initiating one of his own malicious design. He had seen Mr. Davies leave. He had seen the brief exchange of what he assumed was a significant amount of cash, and in his twisted, prejudiced mind, a plan began to form, a way to finally ensnare Mac Johnson and destroy the reputation he had so painstakingly built. The trap was about to be sprung, and Mac, unsuspecting, was about to walk right into it, armed only with his integrity, unaware that the key to his salvation was silently recording from the dashboard of his tormentor's own vehicle. Officer Rick Snyder approached Mac Johnson with a predatory stillness, his hand resting near his holstered weapon, his eyes small and hard, taking in the garage with a proprietary air. Mac, wiping grease from his hands with a rag, stepped out from under the hydraulic lift where he'd been inspecting the undercarriage of another vehicle. A knot of unease tightened in his stomach. Snyder's presence rarely boded well. "Afternoon, Johnson," Snyder drawled, his voice a low, unpleasant rumble. "Keeping busy, I see. Lots of high rollers bringing their fancy toys to your little chop shop." The term chop shop was a deliberate insulting barb, meant to provoke. Mac kept his expression neutral, though Snyder's contempt was palpable. "Good afternoon, Officer Snyder. Just finishing up a restoration for a customer. Can I help you with something?" "Oh, I think you can," Snyder said, a smirk playing on his lips. He took a slow, deliberate look around the tidy garage, his gaze lingering on a set of expensive custom wheels awaiting installation. "Just had a report come in. Armed robbery over on 5th Street, gas station. Perp was described as a black male, mid-40s, driving a dark-colored older model pickup. Sound like anyone you know, Johnson? Maybe someone who just left here in a hurry. Pockets full of cash." Mac's blood ran cold. He knew instantly what Snyder was insinuating. Mr. Davies, the owner of the muscle car, roughly fit that vague description, and he had indeed just left with a vehicle that could be considered older model, and he had paid in cash. Snyder was trying to link him, or his customer, to a crime. "Officer," Mac said, his voice firm but even, "my last customer was a gentleman named Davies. He's a classic car enthusiast from out of state. He paid me for a legitimate engine rebuild I've been working on for weeks. I have the work order, his contact information, and a receipt for his payment. There was no robbery." Snyder chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "That's a good story, Johnson. Real convenient. But eyewitnesses can be unreliable, especially when they're trying to protect their buddies." He took a step closer, invading Mac's personal space. "Tell you what, I'm thinking maybe that cash Mr. Davies paid you with? Maybe it's the same cash that was just stolen from the Quick Stop on 5th. And maybe, just maybe, you're involved in laundering it, or fencing stolen goods. You got a lot of parts lying around here." He gestured vaguely at the organized shelves of spark plugs, filters, and fan belts. This was outrageous. Snyder was fabricating a crime, twisting a legitimate business transaction into something sinister, all based on his own prejudiced assumptions. "Officer Snyder," Max stated, his voice like ice, "I run an honest business. Every part here is accounted for. The money Mr. Davies paid me is payment for services rendered. I have meticulous records. You are making baseless and defamatory accusations." "Am I?" Snyder's smirk widened. "We'll just see about that. I think I need to take a look around, secure any potential evidence. You wouldn't mind if I just poked about a bit, would you, Johnson? Unless, of course, you have something to hide." He made a move as if to enter Mac's small office, where the safe containing Mr. Davies's cash payment was located. Mac instinctively stepped to block his path. "You are not searching my office or my property without a warrant, officer. You have no probable cause, only wild speculation and clear harassment." Snyder's eyes narrowed into dangerous slits. This was the resistance he'd been hoping for. "Oh, I think I do have probable cause, Johnson. You're being uncooperative. You're obstructing an investigation into a violent felony. And this garage of yours? It fits the profile for a place that could be used to strip stolen cars or hide illicit proceeds. That's all the cause I need." He placed his hand firmly on his sidearm. "Now, are you going to step aside, or am I going to have to place you under arrest for interfering with a police officer?" Mac stood his ground, his heart pounding but his resolve firm. "You are not entering my office without a warrant. If you attempt to do so, I will consider it an unlawful search, and I will take appropriate legal action." "Big words for a grease monkey," Snyder sneered. He was clearly losing his temper, his plan to intimidate Mac into allowing a search backfiring. He needed something more, something concrete to justify his actions, to make his fabricated charges stick. His eyes darted around the garage, then seemed to fix on a cluttered workbench near the back, where Mac kept a collection of tools, spare parts, and rags. A new, even more sinister idea began to form in Snyder's mind. "All right, Johnson," Snyder said, his voice suddenly taking on a deceptively calm tone. "You want to play it that way? Fine. Stay right here. Don't move a muscle. I'm just going to make a quick call." He turned and walked back towards his patrol car, but not before casting a furtive, calculating glance towards Mac's workbench. Mac watched him go, a sense of profound unease settling over him. Snyder's sudden shift in demeanor was more alarming than his earlier bluster. What was he planning? Mac had no idea that Officer Snyder was about to commit an act of blatant evidence tampering, an act he believed would seal Mac's fate, an act he was convinced no one would ever witness. He had forgotten, or perhaps arrogantly dismissed, the silent, impartial observer mounted on his own dashboard, its lens capturing every move, every lie, every moment of his descent into blatant criminality. The dash cam was rolling and Rick Snyder was about to frame himself. Officer Snyder's retreat to his patrol car was not to make a call, as he'd claimed. Mac Johnson watched, a knot of apprehension tightening in his gut, as Snyder leaned into the passenger side of his cruiser, rummaged for a moment, and then emerged with a small, dark object clutched in his hand. Snyder kept his back mostly to Mac, his movements furtive and quick. He then began a slow, seemingly casual stroll around the perimeter of Mac's open garage bay, his eyes darting around as if assessing security or looking for escape routes. It was all a performance. His real destination was Mac's cluttered workbench at the rear of the garage, a spot momentarily obscured from Mac's direct line of sight by a large engine hoist. Mac, though deeply suspicious, remained where Snyder had ordered him, near the front of the garage. He didn't want to give the officer any pretext to claim he was interfering or attempting to flee. He strained his ears, trying to discern what Snyder was doing. He heard a faint clinking of tools, a rustle of rags. Then, after what felt like an eternity but was probably no more than 30 seconds, Snyder sauntered back into view, his hands conspicuously empty, a look of smug, almost theatrical innocence on his face. "All right, Johnson," Snyder announced, his voice once again laced with that arrogant, authoritative tone. "Change of plans. I've got a K9 unit on the way. Anonymous tip just came in. Seems there might be narcotics stashed on these premises. Funny how these things just pop up, isn't it?" He smirked, clearly relishing Mac's visible confusion and growing alarm. Narcotics? Mac was stunned. Officer, that's insane. There are no drugs in my garage. I run a clean business. This is harassment. That's what the dog will determine, won't it? Snyder replied coolly. In the meantime, given this new information and your previous uncooperative attitude, I am now conducting a preliminary protective sweep for officer safety and to secure any evidence that might be in plain view. You will remain where you are. Do not interfere. This was it, the pretext Snyder needed. Before Mac could protest further, Snyder brushed past him and made a beeline for the previously obscured workbench. He began to rummage through the tools and rags with a great show of diligence. Then, with a triumphant cry, he held up a small, clear plastic baggie containing several suspicious-looking pills. Well, 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 Johnson, what have we here? Looks like your little auto repair shop is a front for something a bit more profitable, eh? These look like illegal painkillers, maybe something stronger. Quite a find. Mac stared in horrified disbelief. Those pills were not his. He had never seen them before in his life. Snyder had planted them. The furtive movements, the anonymous tip. It was all a setup, a blatant, outrageous frame-up. "Those aren't mine," Mac exclaimed, his voice shaking with a mixture of rage and despair. "You put them there. I saw you go to your car. You planted that evidence." Snyder laughed, a cold, dismissive sound. "Oh, I planted them, did I? That's a good one, Johnson. You'll have to come up with a better story than that for the judge. Resisting arrest, possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute. You're looking at some serious time, my friend." He pulled out his handcuffs. "Marcus Johnson, you are under arrest." The click of the handcuffs was a death knell to Mac's hope. He was being framed, his life, his business, his reputation, all about to be destroyed by this malicious, corrupt officer. As Snyder roughly frog-marched him towards the patrol car, Mac felt a despair so profound it threatened to suffocate him. He was an innocent man, trapped in a nightmare orchestrated by a cop who was the real criminal. He glanced at the patrol car, and for a fleeting moment, his eyes registered the small, dark lens of the dash cam, mounted just below the rearview mirror, pointing forward, silently recording, a tiny, almost insignificant detail in the chaos of his arrest. But that tiny lens, Mac had no way of knowing, had just captured everything. It had recorded Snyder retrieving an evidence bag from his own vehicle. It had recorded Snyder's surreptitious trip to the workbench. It had recorded with damning clarity the officer planting the drugs that were now being used to destroy an innocent man's life. The hidden power of impartial technology was about to become Mac Johnson's only hope. The arrest of Mac Johnson sent shockwaves through the Ironwood community. Snyder's official report, a masterpiece of fabricated probable cause and outright lies, painted Mac as a belligerent, uncooperative drug dealer caught red-handed. Bail was set impossibly high. Mac, unable to afford it, languished in the county jail, his business shuttered, his reputation in tatters, his family distraught. His wife, Maria, and his teenage son, Kevin, were heartbroken and terrified, but they never doubted his innocence. They knew Mac. They knew his integrity. Maria, a fiercely determined woman who worked as a legal secretary, immediately began to fight for her husband. She scraped together every penny they had to hire a lawyer, not a high-powered defense attorney, but a young, idealistic public defender named Ben Carter, again a recurring name representing a force for good, who had a reputation for being a tenacious investigator, even if he was often outgunned by the prosecutor's office. Ben Carter listened intently to Mac's account of the arrest, his brow furrowing deeper with every detail of Snyder's suspicious behavior. Mac's insistence that Snyder had planted the drugs, his description of Snyder's furtive trip to the workbench after retrieving something from his patrol car, it all sounded like a classic frame-up. but proving it would be another matter entirely. Snyder was a seasoned cop. He would have covered his tracks, or so he thought. "Mr. Johnson," Ben said, "Officer Snyder's report claims he developed probable cause based on an anonymous tip about narcotics after he was already on your property for the robbery investigation. He claims he saw the pills in plain view on your workbench during a protective sweep. This sounds convenient. We need to get our hands on every piece of discovery, the dispatch logs for that supposed anonymous tip, any witness statements, and, most critically, Officer Snyder's dashcam footage from his patrol car. If he went to his car and then to that workbench before this alleged tip came in, his whole story falls apart." The fight for the dashcam footage was, predictably, an uphill battle. The prosecutor's office, relying heavily on Snyder's sworn statement, initially resisted, claiming the footage was not relevant as the drugs were found inside the garage, not in view of the dash cam. Ben Carter, however, was relentless. He filed motion after motion, arguing that the dash cam could corroborate or contradict Officer Snyder's timeline of events, particularly his movements before the alleged plain view discovery. He subpoenaed the vehicle maintenance logs for Snyder's cruiser to ensure the dashcam was operational. He even hinted at filing a Brady motion if potentially exculpatory evidence was being withheld. Finally, after weeks of legal wrangling, just days before a crucial pretrial hearing, the prosecutor's office reluctantly turned over the dashcam footage. Ben and Maria Johnson watched it together in Ben's small, cluttered office, their hearts pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. The footage was grainy, the audio partially obscured by traffic noise, but it was continuous and it was damning. The camera clearly showed Officer Snyder arriving at Mac's garage. It showed Mac's initial interaction with him. Then, crucially, it showed Snyder returning to his patrol car, leaning into the passenger side, out of view of Mac but in clear view of the forward-facing dash cam, and retrieving a small pre-packaged evidence baggie from what appeared to be his own go bag or tactical kit. Snyder then tucked this baggie into his pocket, his movements quick and surreptitious. The camera then recorded Snyder walking towards the rear of Mac's garage, towards the workbench area, disappearing from its direct line of sight for about 30 seconds and then re-emerging empty-handed. Only after this sequence did Snyder make his radio call, his voice captured by his lapel mic, which synced audio to the dash cam, reporting the anonymous tip about narcotics and his intention to investigate further. The dash cam had captured with irrefutable time-stamped clarity Officer Rick Snyder bringing the drugs to the scene and heading towards the exact spot where they were later discovered. He had, in effect, recorded himself preparing to frame Mac Johnson. Maria Johnson gasped, tears streaming down her face, a mixture of horror at the blatant criminality and overwhelming relief. Ben Carter felt a surge of cold, righteous fury, but also a profound sense of vindication. "We got him, Mac," he whispered, though Mac wasn't there. "We got the lying bastard on his own camera." The silent, impartial witness had spoken, and its testimony was about to blow Officer Snyder's carefully constructed house of lies to smithereens. The courtroom buzzed with a tense, expectant energy on the day of Mac Johnson's pretrial evidentiary hearing. Officer Rick Snyder, looking smug and confident, took the stand to recount his version of events, his testimony a well-rehearsed litany of lies about anonymous tips, plain-view discoveries, and Mac's uncooperative behavior. He clearly believed his badge and his sworn testimony were unassailable. He had no idea what Ben Carter, Mac's young but fiercely determined public defender, was about to unleash. When it was Ben's turn to cross-examine, he approached the witness stand with a calm, almost deferential demeanor that belied the bombshell he was about to drop. After a few preliminary questions establishing Snyder's timeline, Ben paused, then addressed the judge. Your Honor, the defense would now like to introduce into evidence a certified copy of the dash cam recording from Officer Snyder's own patrol vehicle, Unit 714, from the date and time of Mr. Johnson's arrest. A flicker of unease crossed Snyder's face. The prosecutor, looking surprised, raised a mild objection about relevance, which the judge, intrigued, quickly overruled. The courtroom lights dimmed slightly, and a large monitor flickered to life, displaying the grainy but clear footage from Snyder's dash cam. The courtroom watched in stunned silence as the events unfolded on screen. Snyder's arrival, his initial interaction with Mac. Then the critical sequence. Snyder returning to his cruiser, leaning in, clearly retrieving the small evidence baggie from his own gear, pocketing it, and then walking towards Mac's workbench area, disappearing briefly from view before re-emerging, empty-handed. The audio synced with the video captured Snyder only after this sequence making his radio call about the supposed anonymous tip regarding narcotics. The discrepancy between Snyder's sworn testimony and the irrefutable, time-stamped reality captured by his own dashcam was stark, undeniable, and utterly devastating. As the damning footage played, Officer Snyder's face went from smug confidence to ashen disbelief, then to a sickly green. He began to sweat profusely, his eyes darting wildly between the screen, the judge, and the prosecutor, who was now staring at him with an expression of open horror and betrayal. Mac Johnson, seated beside Ben Carter, watched the video with tears welling in his eyes, a profound, almost unbearable sense of vindication washing over him. His wife, Maria, squeezed his hand, sobbing quietly. When the video ended, a shocked, angry murmur rippled through the courtroom. Ben Carter let the silence hang for a moment before turning back to the witness stand. Officer Snyder. Ben's voice was quiet, but it cut through the tension like a scalpel. The man in that video retrieving an evidence bag from his own vehicle, then walking towards Mr. Johnson's workbench before any alleged anonymous tip about narcotics was received. That was you, was it not? Snyder stammered, his voice barely audible. I don't... The camera angle, it's misleading. Misleading, officer, Ben pressed, his voice rising slightly. Or is it perhaps your sworn testimony, your official police report, that is misleading? Did you or did you not bring those drugs to Mr. Johnson's garage and plant them on his workbench to falsely incriminate him? Snyder looked trapped, his eyes darting around like a cornered animal. He opened his mouth, then closed it, then finally muttered, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. A collective gasp went through the courtroom. A police officer on the stand, in uniform, invoking the Fifth. It was an admission of guilt more eloquent than any confession. The judge, a veteran jurist known for her stern demeanor and sharp intellect, looked down at Snyder with an expression of utter contempt. Officer Snyder, she said, her voice like ice, you are excused from the witness stand. However, I am ordering you to remain in this courthouse. Bailiff, please ensure Officer Snyder does not leave the premises. Mr. Prosecutor, she turned to the stunned ADA. In light of this extraordinary and deeply disturbing evidence, does the state have anything further to offer regarding the charges against Mr. Marcus Johnson? The prosecutor, his face pale, rose slowly. Your Honor, he said, his voice trembling slightly, in light of the evidence just presented, the state moves to dismiss all charges against Mr. Johnson with prejudice. Motion granted, the judge declared, her gavel coming down with a resounding crack. Mr. Johnson, you are free to go. This court offers its profound apologies for the ordeal you have endured. And Officer Snyder, she fixed him with a final withering glare. I strongly suggest you retain competent legal counsel. You are going to need it." The courtroom erupted. Mac Johnson was surrounded by his tearful, jubilant family. Ben Carter, a young public defender, had just achieved a stunning victory, exposing a corrupt cop and freeing an innocent man, all thanks to the silent, impartial testimony of a police dash cam. Officer Rick Snyder, his career in ruins, his freedom now in jeopardy, was escorted from the courtroom by a bailiff, his smug arrogance replaced by the stark, terrified realization that his own technology had become the instrument of his spectacular public downfall. The truth, captured on tape, had indeed set Mac Johnson free and was about to imprison the man who tried to frame him. The dismissal of all charges against Mac Johnson and the dramatic implosion of Officer Rick Snyder's career in open court was merely the beginning of the fallout. The dashcam footage, so damning and irrefutable, became the centerpiece of an immediate internal affairs investigation, which quickly morphed into a criminal probe by the district attorney's office, the same office that had, just moments before, been prosecuting Mac. Rick Snyder was arrested within days, charged with multiple felonies including official oppression, perjury, falsifying evidence, and tampering with a government record. His trial was swift, the dashcam footage leaving no room for doubt. He was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to a significant prison term, a stunning and rare outcome for a police officer accused of on-duty crimes. His name became synonymous with corruption in Ironwood, a stark warning about the abuse of power. Mac Johnson, his name cleared and his freedom restored, returned to his garage, Mac's Auto and Trust. The Ironwood community, horrified by what he had endured and inspired by his quiet resilience, rallied around him. Customers flocked back, many bringing gifts, offering apologies for any prior doubts, and expressing their profound gratitude for his honesty and skill. His business boomed, becoming more successful than ever before. With the substantial settlement he received from his civil rights lawsuit against the city and Officer Snyder, Mac expanded his garage, hired several young apprentices from the neighborhood, giving them a chance he himself had struggled for, and established a small fund to help provide legal assistance to others in the community who had been unjustly accused. He became a reluctant local hero, a symbol of integrity prevailing over corruption. The Ironwood Police Department was forced into a period of intense soul-searching and reform. Snyder's case exposed deep-seated issues of inadequate supervision, a flawed citizen complaint process, and a culture that had, for too long, protected problematic officers. A new police chief was brought in, tasked with rebuilding community trust and implementing sweeping changes, including stricter protocols for evidence handling, enhanced training in ethics and constitutional rights, and a renewed commitment to the proper use and review of all recording devices, including dashcams and body cams. The dashcam from Snyder's own cruiser, the silent witness that had been his undoing, became a key training tool for new recruits, a vivid illustration of how quickly and completely an officer's career could be destroyed by their own criminal actions. The legacy of Mac Johnson's ordeal was a testament to the enduring power of truth, the importance of due process, and the unexpected ways in which justice can be served. It highlighted the critical role of impartial evidence, in this case, a simple dash cam, in cutting through lies and exposing corruption. Mac never sought to be a symbol, but his quiet dignity in the face of profound injustice and his ultimate vindication provided a powerful lesson for his community and beyond, that even when the system seems rigged, the truth, if persistently pursued, can indeed set you free, and sometimes it can even bring the corrupt to justice using their own tools against them. The attempt by Officer Rick Snyder to frame Mac Johnson is a chilling exposé of how racial bias and a vindictive abuse of power can lead a law enforcement officer to commit heinous crimes against an innocent citizen. Snyder saw Mac not as a respected local businessman, but as an easy target, someone whose life and liberty he could casually destroy to satisfy his own malice or to cover up his own inadequacies. His methodical planting of evidence and falsification of reports demonstrate a profound contempt for the law he was sworn to uphold. This story powerfully underscores the critical importance of impartial evidence in the pursuit of justice. In an era of he said, she said, where the word of an officer often carries disproportionate weight, the dashcam footage from Snyder's own vehicle served as an unblinking, incorruptible witness. It was the hidden power that leveled the playing field, exposing Snyder's lies and Mac's innocence with irrefutable clarity. This highlights the indispensable role of recording technology, dashcams, and bodycams in ensuring police accountability, not as a panacea, but as a vital tool for transparency. Mac Johnson's resilience, supported by his determined wife Maria, and the tenacious advocacy of public defender Ben Carter, is a testament to the human spirit's refusal to be crushed by injustice. Their fight against a system that initially seemed stacked against them demonstrates the courage it takes to challenge official narratives and demand truth. Ben Carter's relentless pursuit of the dashcam footage, despite initial resistance, was pivotal, showcasing how diligent legal work can uncover the evidence that turns a case. The ultimate conviction of Officer Snyder and the subsequent reforms within the Ironwood Police Department offer a glimmer of hope that even entrenched corruption can be rooted out, and that systemic change, though often slow and hard-fought, is possible. This narrative serves as a potent reminder that vigilance is required at all levels, from citizens who witness injustice, to legal professionals who defend the accused, to departmental leaders who must foster a culture of integrity and accountability. It also champions the idea that sometimes the very tools intended for law enforcement can become the instruments of justice against those who betray their oath. If this story of a frame-up foiled by an officer's own dashcam and an innocent man's hard-won vindication has resonated with you, please engage with our content. Like this video, subscribe to our channel for more compelling stories of justice, and be sure to hit that notification bell. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. How crucial is video evidence in ensuring police accountability, and what other measures can be taken to protect citizens from wrongful accusations? Your participation is vital to these important conversations. Thank you for watching.